Mixing with Mike plugin of the week comes from Sonible. It's the Smart Reverb. Sonible has made a name for itself by creating plugins that work on an artificial intelligence based technology. The idea being that you bring an audio signal in, it analyzes the different aspects of the sound and then would project out a proposed EQ or compression setting, something that would achieve a desirable effect. And now they've moved on with that technology into creating reverbs, and this is really an amazing one. In terms of the way of that you might work with something like this, it's a bit different, this technology, than you might work with just like a general plugin. And so there's a beauty for that, which allows you, in this case, to set up a reverb pretty quickly, something that basically sounds very good, and then giving you the ability to adapt and adjust it and manipulate it in just the most amazing ways. So really excited about this plugin. So let's dive right in. So we have the toolbar right up on the top, reset, bypass, there's an A/B. You could store presets, etc., undo, redo, all of those sorts of things. There's a settings panel up at the top. I'm just going to hide my license key, but it allows you to make the wet signal 100% wet by default. Show the tooltips if you want to look at tooltips. The OpenGL, this has something to do with the graphics language, I guess. And you could share your anonymous data with them if you prefer. And usage data, basically. It's anonymous usage data. Essentially, the way the plugin works is that, for example, I have something here with drums, right? So let me just kind of mute some of the other tracks. And if I were attempting to create a reverb with drums, essentially what I would do is I would select something here that would be drums. I would hit this here, feed an audio signal into it. And then what it does is it creates a reverb that you might find appropriate. Now from here, you can adjust all of the settings around it, and I'll kind of go through the whole panel here just to give you a basic idea. But just very quickly, let's just take a listen to what that is that it created. Oops, there's a dry component in there. Let's mix the wet up. There we go. So that acts as a starting point. So let's go through some of the different parameters here. So what you have is the learn section here. You have a variety of different options. If you want to set up a sound for the snare, you could do that there. Guitars, keys, vocals. These are just general building blocks to help it shape the process. And essentially what it does is it does a sort of a spectral and temporal character analysis of the incoming signal. In this way, it can sort of balance things like resonances and stuff like that you might be fighting your way through with certain reverbs and searching through presets and stuff like that, where this would just sort of analyze that, eliminate that from being an issue just straight up, and then you can make adjustments to work with it accordingly. What you have here is a reverb matrix, and what this does is it allows you to shape the signal in a variety of different ways. So you can lean more towards natural, like a natural space, artificial, which allows you to create more kind of, I don't know, industrial kind of sounds, I guess would be the best way to do it. Richness, which starts to, rich, which will bring in, you see that it sort of shifts some of the characteristics over here, which we'll get to in a bit, brings in a bit more density, and then there's intimate, which is sort of a drier, tighter type of sound. And generally where it leaves you is in the middle, and then you can kind of work your way around, and you could see all of the other settings sort of adapting to what's going on there. Then there's a tonal coloration section here, so you can adjust the width. The color will either lean it towards being bright or warm, right? So you can work it that way. There's a clarity factor. The way they describe it is I can't. The best way I guess I can kind of describe it, because it talks about adding in direct signals to add clarity to the vocal. To me, what this is more or less is kind of like early reflections. So if you lean it more towards early reflections, what you're getting are these short reflections which basically means you don't have a lot of density in the reverb. So you have less reverb and you have these more short reflections that sort of define the space in a very transparent kind of way. That's what it sounds like to me. And so you can blend those in, and basically that's what you have there. You have a global controls here, which is the reverb time and pre-delay, so you could establish those things. Those run independent of this, so it's not making any decisions that way. If you wanted a shorter, tighter reverb, it's just generating a reverb that more or less will work given the tonal character and temporal characteristics of what you fed into it. You can then adjust the reverb time, and what it does is it will give you more flexibility in terms of having a longer time or a shorter time. You would adapt that basically to the tempo of the song and how busy the part is, get that to work, add in pre-delay to sort of create depth or distance, and then kind of work from there. The wet dry controls, this just allows you, if you put it on like say a stem or right on a particular channel, it allows you to keep the dry at 100% and then mix in the amount of wet, which is really great. The one thing that you typically get, which drives me crazy all the time with reverb plugins, is just this wet dry control, because then if you put a reverb on say a vocal track, when you pull down raise up the wet signal, it eliminates the dry signal, and then you end up having to pull up the overall level, right? If you set your dry level, you kind of want to keep your dry level there. That's what unlinking it is for. So if you work on inserts, I generally work send return, so I'll generally keep it 100% wet and work with it that way. There's also a couple of effects things here. A freeze, which when you hit it will freeze whatever the current reverb state is and just sort of loop it. There's an infinite reverb effect here, which will sort of grab on to a reverb thing and just sort of extend it out forever, I guess infinitely. There's a tone section here, which allows you to, or a filter section, which allows you to color this. You pop this open, you have a variety of different filter shapes: high pass, low pass, shelving EQs, and bell curve EQs. A cool thing about this is actually if you hold on to the Option or Alt key, you can actually change the width of this, which is kind of cool because and I'll demonstrate this a little bit, which is you can kind of create these very specific kind of tonal characters in a space, which sometimes allows you to create kind of cool resonant reverbs and work in the opposite direction. Now, here you have a temporal shaper, and it works with three basic things. You get the decay shape, you have the spread, which is like a width control, and then you have a density control, which is basically just the density or the amount of reflections over space. What you have here in this section, in the decay section here, are kind of three different zones of the reverb. So if we change or increase the density, one of the things that we'll get is more of these little particles. Right? So this is the particle display. And what you have is a frequency spectrum that goes from 20 hertz up to 20K. So if you want, say, like a brighter reverb, where you have more density early on, you can make the initial very bright and then make the back end of it darker, right? So it kind of gives you an initial brightness for the early stage of the reverb, and then you could kind of pull all of these things in, to kind of tighten up the sort of length of the densest stage of the reverb, and then kind of map it out so you can basically shape or morph the frequency response of the reverb as it goes across time. So what you have here is the time spectrum, because this is 76. If I increase this here, this time will increase here, and you'll see that kind of follows accordingly. So in other words, you could basically shape the tonal character of the reverb over time. That's the basic thing. So a lot of control with the way that you work with it here. So let's see. I have a couple of things here just to kind of play around, just to kind of give you some ideas. I have like a snare drum here, just to give you. I can just pull it out right from the bottom. I'm sorry about that. Getting my plugins mixed up here, so I can resize it right from the bottom. All right. So here I have just a snare reverb. So I could do all kinds of things. Like, for example, if I want to, I can create a reverse reverb. I guess I also have, no, I don't have any kind of tonal character things I set up here, but go ahead. And you can see, like, I created all other kinds of crazy things in here in terms of the different frequency zones, but I can sort of work this out. There's a lots of ways you could adjust this. You could adjust within a frequency area, which would be 200 to 2K, below 200, or above 2K. So you have these three basic zones that you can kind of work with. And then you can see that the density is going to follow where I put this peak, right? So it'll be early if I make it early, but you could shape the way that the reverb kind of enters and decays. And then I can also work with some of the controls like spread. I was working with that a little bit before just to kind of make this, a little wider. I think this is a filter which basically determines above what frequencies the spread will occur. The density curve is just like about how thick or dense that I want this to be. Let me just move on here to a closer. Now, when I adjust this, it will affect or change some of the way the shape of these things go. So if I just wanted a more natural sounding reverb, maybe I want the initial thing to be a bit brighter and then kind of decay a little bit more fast on the top end, so I can stand that out. And if I want to go back to where the original reading was, because I actually read this in or had it analyzed it, I can just hit this link here and it will give me the original sound that was dialed in. Or the original setup on the two displays here, and then I could move it back to its sort of default centered position. But just to give you an idea, oops, went the wrong way. Let's go back here to the display. Here, I have one for the drums. Let me go back here. I had that set up on the A curve. And let's see. So I have a bunch of reverbs that are set up here on some of the different elements of a whole mix. And we can kind of go through some of the settings here.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest and me know upon my blessings. John and go press pass. Go down a head tracks, that's the best part. Cliff, line up a rhythm, me have a tune for bless hearts. Tell them how me feeling and what we dealing with. Revelation, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling fine. Now go make nobody blow my eye.
So this is just something that I dialed in and kind of working with it. But the working method, again, here, if we were just kind of going here, Universal will just sort of work in a more general way. But if I want to work with vocals, I will set it this way, do a little learning curve here.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest.
All right, so I just want to be careful about that. That should be corrected. If you have that setting to not do that, it shouldn't do that when you analyze, but here we go.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest and me know upon my blessings. John and go press pause. Go down and hit tracks, that's the best part. Cliff, line up a rhythm, me have a tune for bless art.
So my 3 different zones will kind of be kind of adjusted here, so I can tighten this up a little bit.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest and me know upon my blessings. John and go press pause. Go down and hit tracks, that's the best part. Cliff, line up a rhythm, me have a tune for bless arts.
Maybe that's a little long for the reverb time, so I could back it off.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard.
Little pre-delay to kind of create a little separation of the voice from the reverb.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest and me know upon my blessings. John and go press pause. Go down and hit tracks, that's the best part. Cliff, line up a rhythm, me have a tune for bless.
If I kind of want to warm it up, I can warm up here by shortening the reverb time later on for the vocal, so it just kind of stays warmer.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest and me know upon my blessings. John and go press pause.
And if I feel like it's a little bit too resonant, I can actually kind of swing and lessen the reverb time here on the lower end.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest and me know upon my blessings. John and go press pause. Go down.
If I want it to be a little bit more open, I can kind of lighten up the density here. So you'll start to see like some of these things just kind of lighten up, make it a little bit more open.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest and me know upon my blessings. John and go press pause. Go down and hit tracks, that's the best part. Cliff, line up a rhythm, me have a tune for bless arts. Tell them how me feeling and what we dealing with. Revelation, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling fine.
So I can make it get less dense as it kind of goes along. And then if I just want to adjust the clarity here, I can kind of make it so that it dials in a little bit more closely to, bringing in some early reflections to kind of create like the openness and the clarity.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest and me know upon my blessings. John and go press pause. Go down and hit tracks, that's the best part. Cliff, line up a rhythm, me have a tune for bless arts. Tell them how me feeling.
I can also brighten it up or make it darker.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest and me know upon my blessings. John and go press pause. Go down and hit tracks, that's the best part. Cliff, line up a rhythm, me have a tune for bless arts.
And you can hear the range there. It's a pretty broad range, which gives you a lot of control. Now let's just change the width here. I can make it mono.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest and me know upon my blessings. John and go press pause. Go down and hit tracks, that's the best part. Cliff, line up a rhythm, me have a tune for bless art.
And then I can shape it here with the tone control here.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest and me know upon my blessings. John and go press pause. Go down and hit tracks, that's the best part. Cliff, line up a rhythm, me have a tune for bless arts. Tell them how me feeling.
So you can kind of create some kind of interesting effects if you want to play with this. This kind of really works well with sometimes with snare sounds and stuff like that, where you can get this really unique kind of tone and really kind of sculpt it into place. Probably not the way to go for this, but here I can just even do just something simple, like just do simple high pass filter, right? And then if I hold the Alt key, I can actually create a resonance there.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest and me know upon my blessings. John and go press pause. Go down and hit tracks, that's the best part. Cliff, line up a rhythm, me have a tune for bless arts. Tell them how me feeling and what we dealing with. Revelation, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling fine.
Same here.
Nah go make nobody blow my eye. I'm feeling good, I'm feeling fine. Now make no negative energy kill my vibes.
So you have all these tools, shelving EQs, bell curves, to shape the character, the tonal character of it. From there, spread controls, decay controls, and all of the controls that you see up here. What gets displayed here is dependent upon what you're selecting down here in the temporal shaper display. So that'll change what you're looking at in the particle display. But whatever controls you're doing, whether it's the spread, which it basically affects like it's not like a super width control in the same way that this is. It's just a matter of where the reflections are coming from. So it does add some width to the spread, but it doesn't go beyond. It works within the parameters of what you have set here, more or less is what I'm saying. And then the density control for just like if you want to really add richness and warmth into a sound that's kind of bright or harsh, you have all that control right there. You can shape exactly where it occurs, so you can make it more intense and thick early on, but lighter and more open as it goes on. The possibilities are really pretty endless. There's not many any reverbs actually that I can think of where you have this much control just over the simple basic aspects of a reverb and the way that you want to shape it. You can get some really unique, interesting effects that you'll just never find in a preset in any reverb. So the ability to control it the way that you control it here with this interface is really pretty amazing in terms of just, being able to really create unique reverbs. And it always gives you like a good starting place just by doing the analysis straight up with the original sound source. Dial it in, and you're good to go. So, new one from Sonible, the Smart Reverb, a very cool one. Nice addition to their collection, and a welcome addition, let's just say. And that's what makes it what Mike's plugin of the week. Sonible Smart Reverb.